Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome once again to Changing the Questions, the show where we take a single question and look at it very closely. My name is Paul Laporte. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mike Miner.
Listen, he meant that we put it down like a game, flip it, and reverse it. That's what we're going to do today.
Okay, and the question that we are going to be putting down, flipping, reversing is, should professional wrestlers have a union? And I guess there's a couple different classifications we're gonna go for this. Is that should they have all one big union? Should each company have its own individual union? Would a union just not help? Those are all things we're going to be looking at right now. This is something, man, decades at least, right?
I don't like unions. It's the chew in my mouth.
Okay.
You can probably see which side I'm going to take with this.
I can see which side you're going to take, and I can see for both. We'll start with you, and then I'll go devil's advocate.
Well, if I had to stand on one side, I'd say yes. But there's a little thing I have to do later on that I'll get to it later on. It'd be smart for them to unionize, yes. Particularly if this was the 80s and 90s, even the 70s. It'd be smart for them to unionize, yes. Stay together, not get let go if, you have a terrible injury. It's like I said, it's a smart thing to do. As far as it doesn't get into the corrupt territory. Yeah, okay, I'd say unionize. But, elaborate your side. Let's kind of feed off each other one bit at a time. So, I think it's going to work better that way.
I think I can see where it's a good idea, and in general, my general philosophy, I guess, I am more of a pro-union person, but professional wrestling is such a different thing than, like, plumbing or maintenance or dock working, where how are you going to, like, there are, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people who have worked professional wrestling shows at one point or another. How are you going to get them all together? Who is going to handle the dues? Like, how are you going to, are you going to send out lawyers to handle the case of a guy who is getting paid, $20 a night and is told he can't work because he's got a cold and they don't want to, get the locker room sick? Like, how are you gonna... what are the logistics of that?
Like I said, it's also a different day than, when it was really being called for. Today, WWE is offering to send guys to rehab that have been around in their company at one point. They've been offering these guys rehab. They have been... they've been getting guaranteed contracts, something that never happened before.
Unless your name was Taka Michinoku.
Yeah. God.
Or Mark Henry.
But it's a strange kind of thing where back in the day it would have held more merit. Today, not so much. But, there's always room for improvement, I guess. Especially on the indies, when you have a corrupt promoter that doesn't want to pay a guy.
Yeah, don't want to pay anybody. And I guess that's kind of the next question that we can go to here is, where would a union best be suited? Are we talking, like, should it just be in WWE? Should it be, like, the union, like, maybe the union kind of just oversees, like, the top, like, WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor? I mean, that's, how does it get put in place is I guess...
I think if
the problem.
Wow, it's a tough one, but
I mean, I'm all for worker protections, and I'm all for, like I said, people getting their fair share and getting paid what they should get paid and not being able to be screwed over. You are right. It does seem like today that doesn't happen nearly as much as it used to.
But you leave an opening and it's going to happen.
Right.
That's the problem.
Just because it's not happening as much as it used to doesn't mean that there aren't. I mean, like, okay,
that's any job.
So let's take a look at the Titus ONeil situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's see how that would have gone down if Titus ONeil was a member of a professional wrestlers union.
He probably would have gotten his suspension sentence reduced.
or
if
it,
anything.
or they
he
would have gone to court with
or
WWE
gone to court,
over
or
it.
had
Yeah.
had maybe a slap on the wrist. Maybe he would have paid a small
So,
fine.
as it stands right now, even in the case of WWE, the professional wrestler has no recourse if they are disciplined. There's no retaliation. There's no way that they can defend themselves.
They'd say something like, Vince didn't have a bruise on him. He clearly was caught on tape. He wasn't, Vince was actually out to pretty much, he looked like he was going to attack Titus, if anything. It wasn't Titus going after him.
Well, I think it would be more they would cite many other cases of unprofessionalism.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In the sport,
and
on TV or on camera or whatever, that didn't get that severe of a punishment.
And even stuff that's not on camera, they'd actually go and
you can fail your first drug test and be out for 30 to 60 days.
And look at Vince McMahon. There's been stories of him trying to tussle around with the guys and play tough guy,
right.
Let's
but
shoot
I'm just
around.
saying. So if there is a union, then that situation goes down a lot differently.
Yeah.
Just disciplinary things in general will need to have kind of more of a consistent form to them, rather than just it's whatever Vince McMahon punishment Vince McMahon decides to met out. So I mean, in a way, that's good for the wrestlers. But where I can see the unions hurting wrestlers is just a fact of you're a member of the pro wrestling union. Next, they just get overlooked completely, and there's just so many professional wrestlers that. If a union tried to form, it's like anybody who was a member of it would just be buried or outright let go right away. It would be very, very difficult to get everybody together because people are at such different levels. They have so many different, what they want out of this sport and what they want out of their lives. It varies so wildly. It's just really, really difficult to do, and I just feel like
you think it's political now. Wait till you have a union.
Yeah, no shit.
Because you can have a guy with all the talent in the world, and right now it can be political as far as talent and in ring work and mic work and all that stuff. It could be that could be holding you back politically as far as that goes. But as far as unions go, you could be the greatest athlete in the world, best talker, but if you're under a promoter that does not like unions, your ass is getting buried.
Yeah, and I mean, do we also
want to
live in a world where professional wrestlers are striking potentially? That's just. I mean, again, that's to protect them, and that's because to get their own interest and get better pay and whatever. But it's such a different thing, and it's so weird.
I mean, look at all the guys that have gone down in the last 6 to 8 months to injury in WWE. As far as I know, none of them have been let go that I could think of.
And that may not have been the case
10 years ago.
Years ago.
Look at 10 years ago. I mean, you could see guys getting let go in a talent purge, once, twice a year? Like, mass amounts of talent just being let go. Jackie Gata and Charlie Haas are a prime example of people that would have benefited from a union because she's pregnant, and I think he was out with an injury.
Yeah.
And they were let go. They would have benefited from that.
Imagine how different the CM Punk thing is if there's a union. That really could have been like a big thing if that was the case.
I wonder if we could get a hold of Jesse Ventura and ask him how he would have implemented it, or how he'd think it should go. That'd be interesting.
Wasn't he one of the ones pushing for it?
He was the guy that was pushing for it. He was the man that was pushing for a union in professional wrestling before Hogan got wind of it and went to Vince about it and he got shot down.
And that's the tough thing.
That's where a lot of bad blood came from.
It seems like the union, the time to form that union was in the 60s and the 70s.
You keep saying union, and I feel like I got to hold a 2x4.
The time for a union to form was in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
What union in any industry anywhere is forming in 2016?
I was going to say, even the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
But, it's another case of, I think there's always a place for a union, but, it's more of, it's what an employer does. And the fact that they're recognized as, what are they called? That I'm having a blank on right now.
Independent contractors.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
The fact that they're categorized as independent contractors is a little weird for me. I mean,
well, that specifically, I think that verbiage was used specifically so they couldn't unionize.
Yeah, and that's
they're not employees; they're independent contractors.
Because they're signing, they're doing this through a deal and but you can use that with just about anybody at any profession if you really wanted to. But that's the sneaky part. And that's the thing about professional wrestling is that it doesn't always adhere to the rules that you would think a company, like a certain company would have to adhere to because it's, it's...
But you take a look at, like, the NBA and the NFL, there's players' unions for those, So should there... I guess let's forget whether or not, will there be, because I think the answer to that is pretty clearly no, should there be? It's not too late. They can always do it.
Oh, yeah. Especially...
Do you think that would benefit wrestlers in the long run, or do you think that it would hinder them more?
Benefit them now, but as far as... it's as great as it's ever been, I guess. You have impact testing. You've got, these guys have to stay on the shelves if they get injured. They're not usually let go if they get injured unless they're super injury prone, I guess, and they can't fulfill their commitments. And even if they don't fulfill their commitments, look at Rey Mysterio. His situation was he was out for so long that he wasn't allowed to be he wasn't going to be let go by Vince McMahon. Vince said, "You're going to fulfill these dates that you missed.
Yeah,
you're going
no
to
matter
fulfill
how long
time."
it takes.
Yeah, and same thing was happening with Daniel Bryan. I guess that's another rumor. I'm not sure if that was clear or not, but. You got to fulfill these commitments because that's what you were contracted for. Yeah. So it's always a matter of if there's a company out there, they're going to try to take advantage of any kind of opening that they can get to either get rid of somebody or make their life miserable, and they want to get out of there. So is there always a place for a union? I'd say yeah, but would it always be necessary? That's another.
See, I'm kind of the opposite thing where I think it is a thing where it is needed, but is there a place for it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know how the logistics of getting it going are just so. Like, literally, it would have to be, like, WWE forming it on their own.
Lawyers.
Yeah, it would need to be, like, WWE starting it on their own as, like, a benefit to their workers, and then handing it over to them, and I just don't see that happening. So.
And besides, the way some of the wrestlers are, there's no way it wouldn't be corrupt in no time with some of them. It could become very corrupt, but... I don't know.
Well... That's
all speculation.
That's a different discussion for a different time, and I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Changing the Questions. If you did, be sure to check out all of our other shows that we have on our YouTube channel. You can just search for Changing the Questions over there and check out all of our other programming. On Mondays, we have Time Warp. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have this show, Changing the Questions. On Wednesdays, we have Booking a Better Wrestler. And on Fridays, we have Let's Play TEW. Also, be sure to head on over to our website, changingtheqs.com. That's changingtheqs.com, where we have all sorts of new content, articles, including links to all of our audio and video broadcasts as well. We have Raw and NXT recaps that we're doing weekly now, and with WrestleMania coming up this weekend, you can bet your ass we are going to have just a ton of stuff. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so. Same thing, at Changing the Qs, at Changing the QS. If you want to follow us on Facebook, just search for Changing the Questions there. If you want to send us a good old-fashioned email, do so, changingthequestions@gmail.com, and that is going to do it for us, my friend.
That's that how it goes?
Sure. For my partner, Mike Miner, my name is Paul Laporte. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.